Okay. All good.
All right. I'm going to start with the script for remotely conducted open meetings, confirming member access. As a preliminary matter, this is the Harbor and Shellfish Advisory Board. I am the chairman, Andy Lowell, to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Same with the staff and also anticipated speakers. I'll come back to this after reading the rest of this. Introduction to remote meeting. Good afternoon. This open meeting of the Harbor and Shellfish Advisory Board is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020. Due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirements of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, Harbor Shellfish Advisory Board is convening by video conference via Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and to take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website. Unless otherwise noted, the public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and to state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in a conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. For items with public comment, after members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged by and speak through the chair. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call. I'm going to call this meeting to order, the Harbor and Shellfish Advisory Board, June 1st, 2021. I'd like to confirm members present. Mr. Brace. Peter.
Yes, I'm here, Andy.
Yes, Tom. Mr. Sadlowski.
Hello, I'm here.
Thank you. Ms. Andrews, Ginger.
Yes, I'm here.
Mr. Franzuto.
Here.
Is Mr. Bossy with us?
Mr.
Yes,
Bossy's
good.
here too.
Thank you, Mr. Bossy. Do we have any staff tonight, Peter? Yeah.
Not yet.
All right. Anticipated speakers, if any, just please speak up if you wish to be heard. All right. Do we have a motion to approve tonight's agenda, please?
So moved, Mr. Chairman. This is Ginger.
Thank you, Ginger.
This is Tom. I second.
Thank you, Tom. Motion's made by Ginger, seconded by Tom. All in favor, Mr. Brace,
Aye.
Mr. Bossy,
Aye.
Mr. Franzuto.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The agenda is approved. Approval of minutes. Did everybody get a chance to look at the minutes from the last meeting? They were, yes?
I
May
did.
18th.
I have no changes. I'll make a motion to accept them.
I'll second the motion. This is Ginger.
Thank you. Motion's made by Mr. Bossy, seconded by Ms. Andrews. Any discussion, changes to be made? Not hearing any. All in favor, Mr. Brace,
Aye.
Mr. Franzuto,
Aye.
Mr. Sidlowski.
I abstain. I wasn't at the meeting.
Thank you. The chair votes aye. Chairman's report. Returning to in-person meetings, I've just heard that this is going to be happening with other boards. Mr. Brace may know more. If you do, something about the more important boards beginning first, such as Select Board and HDC, maybe Planning Board.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just got an email from Erica Mooney last week saying that they're going to be returning, I think starting maybe June 16th, I think, with the select board meeting, if I had that correctly. And it'll be the regulatory boards first, and then us, less important, are less powerful but still important.
There you go.
And what Erica said was that the challenge is to find the meeting space for us, for everybody, because we no longer have the training room above the community room, the training room up in the police station on the second floor. Apparently that's not available for us or for anybody.
Yeah.
I did not ask her how we might make a hybrid of our meetings so that our meetings can both be broadcast via Zoom and also that we meet, live.
All right. Well,
I don't know if that's something that's a possibility or if the town is offering that, but she didn't mention it. So,
yeah. Well, maybe a meeting room will open up in the ugliest building on the island, over by the old fire station.
yeah.
But anyhow, board members, the reason I have this here is I would really like to know how the board feels about meeting again in person. If anybody's concerned about that, I'd certainly want to know so that we can look more into a hybrid system of meeting. And I feel as though maybe we should anyway, to make easier access for the public. And I've heard that's possibly what the select board is going to be doing, allowing people to attend remotely, even though they'll be meeting in person. So something to keep in mind as we move forward. I'd love to know the each board member's feelings and opinion on this. Election day reminder, June 15th. Town meeting reminder this Saturday, June 5th. After the election, when we have a full board and present at our following meeting, we will elect officers. So keep that in mind. And we ought to decide today about our summer schedule. And if we meet once or twice in July and August, and would it be the first Tuesday if it's just once, or the second? How's the remainder of the board feel? I'll start with Mr. Brace.
Well, if we meet the first, I'm fine with July. I just won't be here on the first Tuesday in August. I'll be up in Maine at our place.
Okay.
So I can certainly, if we're not meeting live by then, I can certainly set up the meeting and even run it from up there.
Okay.
No problem.
So you'd be able to attend remotely.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. All right. Mr. Franzuto. summer schedule, one meeting for July, one meeting for August, or two? Any thoughts?
No, I think that probably one meeting will be fine, and if we can still do remote, that'd be great.
Okay. All right, Mr. Sidlowski?
I think one meeting will be fine. I'm indifferent as to whether it's the first or the third
Okay,
Tuesday.
thank you, Mr. Bossy.
Pretty much the same. I think one's fine. And either date, first or third Tuesday is fine with me.
All right, Ms. Andrews?
I agree with everybody else. Whatever we decide to do, that's fine. And once in July, once in August, and I think both of those, either would be fine with me.
Okay. Probably be wise to look at the calendar, see where the first Tuesday in July is. The 4th is on a Sunday. Tuesday is the 6th. August, the first Tuesday will be the 3rd. I'm fine with the first two Tuesdays. If anything changes, we could always change them as time goes on. So it sounds like that's pretty unanimous that one meeting in July, one meeting in August, and we'll begin with those being the first Tuesdays.
That's probably good. I was just thinking that we should hear a result of the select board with the oyster license. It'll be late this month, so an early meeting in July would probably be interesting.
Okay. All right. If there's no more discussion on the chairman's report, Marine Department report. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have your hand up, Dave Franzuto?
No, I'm sorry, I was just rubbing my eye.
Marine Department report. Any representation, Mr. Brace?
No, Sheila's not here.
Okay, natural resources. Do we have any representation?
Yeah, you have me.
Okay.
Tara sent me an email and said she couldn't be there because of a conflict tonight. So I'm going to read her report if that's okay with you.
Please do.
Okay. I'm submitting a verbal report for tonight due to a conflict. News from the hatchery, : we just completed our 4th scallop spawn using scallops that were naturally ripe from off of the dock. We had a great morning and stocked 200 million fertilized eggs in our tanks. Our interns have started and are trained. We have installed the timeline panel that details the history of shellfishing on Nantucket, and the kiosk also has our staff profiles. This is located in front of the boathouse on Brant Point. I submitted a collaborative grant today between the Natural Resources Department and the Deepwater Oyster farmers to address the bird deterrent mandates. We plan on testing out 4 different deterrents. Revision, in parentheses, revisions to the oyster grow floats that may prevent birds from resting directly on the floats that hold the oysters. Thais, she's talking about Thais Fournier, our water quality specialist, will be sampling Mattocket Harbor water this week and Nantucket Harbor on June 15th of this month. This, and then in parentheses, this is time/tide dependent. We also deployed our second set of stat lines today in both harbors. These are used to monitor natural spawn occurrence. Harbor water entering the hatchery this morning was 60 degrees. Hope this helps a bit.
Did you say 60?
Yes.
Interesting.
Pretty high for this time of year, don't you think, Dave? Dave Franzuto.
Yeah, that is. I mean, not by much, but it seems.
No, Mr. Pronk mentioned it a month ago that he felt the temperatures in the harbor were a little bit higher than normal, and actually at our last meeting, they had a 61-degree reading at some point. She mentioned, I believe, thought I saw it in the minutes. Well, we've had a lot of warm sunshine this month, that's for sure, this past month. Board members, any comments
No,
on natural resources or marine department? Mr. Franzuto?
Yeah, I just want to thank her for submitting a report, even though she couldn't be here.
She usually does that.
Agreed. Very good. Anyone else? Public comment, marine or natural resources? Not seeing or hearing any. Old business, update on proposed amendments to Airbnb and liveaboard regulations, boat Airbnb. Mr. Brace, is there anything new that you've heard
I
about this?
haven't heard anything from Sheila.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mr. Bossy?
I just saw that they're taking it up. It was on the internet this morning. Apparently the select board's taking this up tomorrow night.
Oh, boy. Wow.
Yeah, the first discussions of it.
Okay, and are they still meeting fully remote?
Yeah, as far as I know, they are. Yeah, I don't think they're switching over till July. I thought they had said last week or last meeting. Yeah.
Are any board members able to attend?
I'm 700 miles from you.
Uh-huh.
I could attend remotely.
Mhm. I mean, it would be interesting, to see how they handle it. It would be nice if we were represented in some way. So,
I could certainly try to sit in on it. It looked from what I read that Sheila's going to be, it's being put up by Sheila to discuss. So
yeah.
How far down on the agenda is it, Dave?
that I don't know. I didn't look at the agenda. This was just on one of the emails this morning that come out, the various ones.
It's probably a public hearing. Well, let's see. Yeah, it's probably a public hearing. So
Yeah.
I've got a hike tomorrow night at 6:30, but when I get back, I'll tune in and see if I've made it.
And when does select board meetings start?
5 o'clock.
6 p.m.
Five. Select board's 5 o'clock on Wednesdays, right?
Well, I'll probably miss it, but yeah.
All right. I'll see what I can do to join that myself. Any other comments from board members on the
Mr.
Airbnb liveaboard, Mr. Franzuto?
Yeah. Did anybody see a public notice in the newspaper or anything?
I haven't scanned it real closely. It's always so littered with moves of modular homes that I can't find or looking at the notice.
Yeah. No, I understand. Yeah, I agree.
I don't see any.
If it's on their agenda and they're going to speak about it. It must have been, but
If they're planning to change the regulation, it would have to be a public hearing. It would have to be advertised.
mhm.
I'm just looking at the agenda, looking for the agenda now.
Thanks, Mr. Bossy. The oyster lease permit revocation. Mr. Bossy, when you come up with something, you can just butt right in. Draft letter to select board. I mean, we've kept this on the agenda because it's still Mr. Franzuto, I'm not sure if you heard, or Mr. Sadlowski, you weren't here at the last meeting, but you've probably both heard that the select board extended, gave Mr. Lambrecht, 45 days. And I have it written down, 45 days from May 12th. So he's gotten a bit more reprieve. Hopefully, he's taking good advantage of that. Comments or discussion?
Uh,
Mr. Franzuto?
Yeah, I just got to say, after all of our deliberation and our letter, that seems very generous from them.
Absolutely, absolutely. And,
It was worse. Yeah.
yeah.
It was what? I'm sorry?
So at the meeting that was initially proposed to give him a year, he went through the entire, the litany of what we went through the whole past year. And so then after that was heard, the select board suggested giving him a year to comply.
Oh, my God.
Luckily, one member of the board said, Shadwin did a lot of work in their letter. They obviously worked very hard at this. We shouldn't dismiss that. And they went back and just discussed it some more and came up with this 45 days.
Wow, that's a huge difference, a year to 45 days.
It was a big deal. Jeff had a lot to do with it, I think, too. It was, yeah.
And may I ask, do you recall which board member inspired that or mentioned our diligence and time involved in the?
That was Christie. She
Okay.
Farenthold, she stopped them as they were starting to discuss the year and said, a lot of work was done by members of SHAB and as evidenced by this letter we received, and we shouldn't dismiss that. And so they went back to discussing.
Wow.
Good.
Wow, that's a good feeling to hear that.
It was.
Any other comments on the oyster lease?
I think all the
Mr.
comments.
Chairman?
Ginger, please.
Oh, I was just going to ask if anyone had heard about any progress or lack thereof.
I have not.
No, I was hoping Jeff was going to be here tonight because in our minutes, he said he was going to review it, I think, on the 18th of May to see how he was doing.
19th, I think.
19th, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he was set to go out there and visit him and see what was up, and yeah.
But I haven't heard anything.
Anybody else?
And I think-
Before we move on, Mr. Chairman, I have the information on the Airbnb.
Yeah.
So it's up for discussion and a possible scheduling of a public hearing. So this is the initial discussion.
Ah,
good.
interesting.
I guess they want to review what Sheila provided and then we'll decide if they have to go to a hearing, I suppose.
Yeah, I've been looking at the paper. I've been looking at the paper last week. It wasn't in the paper as a public hearing.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, if they're going to discuss it to make a decision on whether it becomes a public hearing or not, maybe it would be best whoever is able to make it and just be present. They'll see that we're present, whether you speak or not, But here again, this is something we spent a real lot of time on. And I think there's a lot of pressure in the other direction that we may not know about. There's certainly plenty of pressure from Airbnb or any other short-term rental entity not to lose any of their rights and privileges. So I would imagine that same type of strength would be behind having added regulations to boat Airbnbs as well. So let's try to, where does it land on the agenda, Mr. Bossy?
At the end, of course.
All right.
Hate to be a cynic.
Is it a long agenda?
It doesn't look particularly bad, but they've got a lot of things to deal with coming up the town meeting. And
Yeah.
I can see them getting dragged into, particularly there's a proposal that is apparently going to be put forth to move some of the articles forward. So I would imagine they're going to get stuck in a discussion on that, but that's just imagining the worst.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Brace?
there is a guy who does operate a boat as an Airbnb. His name is Jim Mondani. He is one of our beekeepers at the farm, at Sustainable Nantucket's farm. He runs the Nantucket boat rental right there at Straight Wharf, right there as you, anyway. And he happens to be an attorney, and he is against this. So you could expect him to be at the meeting saying why it shouldn't happen. That's the only local opposition I know of, but there could be others.
Wow. All right. Any
Mr.
other
Chairman?
discussion on either the Airbnb amendments? Mr. Brace?
Mr. Franzu had his hand up.
Yep. Peter, does he use that for his staff, or does he rent that to at large to the public?
I'm pretty sure he draws income from it in that way, like you just said, like for the public. I don't know what type of boat it is.
Yeah, I know of the gentleman, but I don't know what type of boat it is.
I don't know how much staff he has at the boat rental. I'm not sure.
Well,
But if, I don't think that it would be an issue if he, gave it up for his staff, except that that'd be a liveaboard and he's not living on it. So that would be an issue.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
but I was under the impression from him that it was an Airbnb boat.
well, between Airbnb and renting boats at the marina, the harbor is a wonderful resource to Mr. Mondani. Just an
Yep.
opinion. Okay, excessive sand and scallops dredging plan. Mr. Carlson had some information 2 meetings ago about dredging. It sounds like it's also part of discussions with CRAC. But most importantly, to hear Mr. Carlson say a plan is being worked on and money, I don't know, what did he say? Something about fiscal year 2023. So this is a real slow mover, that's for sure. But personally, I feel a lot of changes have taken place in the harbor, and I've spoken plenty about it in the previously, and you've all heard it, so I won't bore you with that anymore. If there's anything new on this, anything somebody'd like to add, please do so now.
Well, Mr. Chairman, this is Ginger.
Yes, please, Ginger.
So, we've talked a lot about the erosion around the edges of the harbor, and it's occurred to me that just looking at one of the presentations that I was able to go to that showed the sand that was, it looked like to me going out through the break in the East Jetty there, closer to Cotu. And it just occurred to me that if we've increased the flow of water in the harbor, that we've also increased the transport of sand. We know that water transports sand, and the question is, how can we get the sand transported where we want it to go, or how can we stop it from being transported? So I don't know that I have enough information to provide anything actually useful personally. But I was thinking about what Mr. Brace said from the crack meeting, that everything that we know is known by the Arcadis, which is forming the plan. And I'm not sure that we know everything that we need to know and that they need to know.
You're
That's
absolutely
my
right,
concern.
Ginger. It's, I mean, you have raised questions for me as far as, mentioning that there's a huge, you can see it when you leave on the Eagle, if you go up on the top deck, and the sand outside of the cut in the core of the bay is tremendous. You can see how it's been deposited there through the cut. So, which makes me curious, okay, how much sand does move? Can we somehow get a volume on this? And it would be really neat to also see some points which were mentioned years ago at a meeting that I mentioned when we had both Mr. Carlson and Cormac Collier present, when Mr. Carlson mentioned that there's mooring handlers whom claim where they used to set a mooring in, say, 6 feet of water, now it's in 4 feet of water in the same location. So it would be nice to be able to pinpoint some depth ranges as well in comparison to say 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So certainly, hopefully, some studying will be done. It's probably required before any dredging can be done. And Ginger, if you remember in the future when this is part of discussion at a future meeting, to please, bring that up. That what type of information will we see for a project like this? So.
I'll try and remember that.
Okay.
The other thing is that I'm I guess rereading Nat Philbrick's book Away Offshore, in which he talks about the difficulty that the whaling vessels had as they got larger getting in and out of the harbor, because that was there was a clay layer and a big bar that the larger ships had difficulty in navigating. And also, I thought back even further when the original harbor was at what is now Capalm Pond, which filled in and has become a fresh or slightly brackish pond. And again, the stress on Cotu, thanks to the jetties and the dredging. I don't remember that the Court of the Bay was as deep earlier on, but I think that would be that the protection offered by Cotu for the harbor is important, and that's been brought up in the paper, and that it would be nice to see a chart of how the soundings in Court of the Bay have changed over the years.
Yes, there as well. Yes.
Well, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Franzuto.
When I get back, I should be back next week. When I get back next week, I've mentioned this to you all before. I have the 1938 chart, and I'd be willing to share it with anybody and everybody. So we could do some comparisons off of that.
Great.
And it's as it was done by a member of the Corps of Engineers, the people that worked on the jetties, and although it's hand drawn, I've found it to be extremely accurate.
Excellent.
And it's probably 3x5, a hand colored chart with this tremendous definition.
Great.
It sounds like something we would all like to look at. I know
Yeah.
I certainly would like to look at it.
I have another one hanging on the wall here, but it's not near the scale of the other one that I have. The other one I have is Nantucket Harbor and to Wauwinet, so it's the whole harbor. So you can definitely draw some comparisons.
has, obviously the coastlines are recorded there as well.
I mean, they are, obviously it's not the fancy mapping that they have today with the LiDAR and all that stuff, but I've found this thing to be extremely accurate.
Very interesting, Dave. Thank you.
I have the one that you and Peter gave me too. It's hanging on the wall here, but I'm going to go look at the date on that one.
All right. That's from the 40s, I think, from Mariah Mitchell.
I think coastal zone management has historic shorelines. The difficulty, as I recall, was getting all the maps were all at different scales, but I think they may have worked out a way to compare them. I'm not sure.
Well, it certainly would be neat. I'm always, I think about what you say in particular, Ginger, that the island is migrating northward, and it would be neat to put an old map on a longitudinal line, and then be able to lay over a map of today on that same longitudinal line, and be able to see. I mean, from what I've seen in the past 20 to 25 years, you're absolutely right, Ginger. The island is moving northward, and it would be really neat to see that on an overlay type of presentation.
There's also there was a book that was done. It was done in, what was it, 1979? Yeah, August 1979. Extension Sea Grant Advisory Program, jointly sponsored by the University of Massachusetts Cooperative Extension Service and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology Sea Grant Program, as well as the Conservation Foundation. It's called the Nantucket Shoreline Survey, an analysis of the Nantucket shoreline erosion and accretion trends since 1846. Looks like that.
Wow.
And it's fascinating. You see it? Okay, Dave? I saw you squinting.
Yeah, that's wicked cool. I don't think I've ever seen that.
Actually, where did I get it? I think someone gave me a copy, but it tells you, obviously through 1979, what the trends are. And then there's, various maps. There are a bunch of maps in it. And then, shows
Yeah,
you. It shows you, they set up transects all around the island showing the movement of sand. But yeah.
Ginger, did you have something more you wanted to add?
No, I'd love to see that map though, or the book, or whatever it is. I think that's would be a good resource. I think I don't know if the USGS has resurveyed that since. I have some old maps too, but not very old. But I'd love to see the analysis. I think that would be a very interesting place to start from and compare with today. If starting, when was it in the 80s that they started doing the radar that could look underwater a little bit better, and we might sort of a time-lapse photography of the satellites as they go over. That might also indicate some of the movements, the way the shoals have spun around since I was a kid.
All right. Anybody else? Not seeing or hearing anything about dredging and sand. We'll move into health of the harbors. Excessive lawn fertilizer use. We had a bit of discussion in the past with Mr. Carlson about that. If anybody has anything they'd like to speak about, now would be the time. I have nothing new to add to this. Except it's fertilizer season and the lawns are green. Not seeing or hearing any. The FDA shellfish taking prohibition in the mooring fields. Not sure if there's been any changes on that, especially with that little spot in the horse shed people are missing out on wanting to get their cherry stones there. Anybody have anything new to add about the shellfish, the prohibited areas for shellfish taking? Not seeing or hearing any.
Dave had his hand up.
Oh,
Yeah,
Dave, Mr. Franzuto, please.
I just want to say that same thing I said before. I think with the pump out data and the water quality testing that we do, the town does on a monthly basis, I think should make a good case for us to not be subject to that regulation. But I know Tara's working on that, but I mean, since 1993, we have pumped more sewage than any other community in the Commonwealth. So I think that could make a strong case, and I'll talk to Tara, but I would be willing. We were the second community in the Commonwealth to be designated as a federal no discharge zone. So we've taken this seriously since 1991. So I think that should put us in good stead to not be subject to this regulation.
Well, and if I recall correctly, at our last meeting, Mr. Carlson was very privy to that, and it seemed as though he was prepared to argue in that manner. So, I don't know, if not to get too far off the subject, but if any of you have been down to Washington Street Extension, the pump out boat's been on a trailer down there just past Sales Seafood. I believe this is the pump out boat that's had quite a makeover. It really looks beautiful. It's a beautiful pump out boat, and freshly painted, nice clean lines, good shiny gel coat on the hull, and so hopefully it does its job out there diligently and continues to pump. I mean, in comparison to other harbors, Mr. Franzuto, though we may pump out the most sewerage, we probably have a great amount of traffic as compared to other towns as well. So,
we do, and to that point, they're actually getting a second pump out boat. And it's a collaborative effort with us and the boat basin. The boat basin can pump out every single slip that they have from dockside. When they reconfigured and rebuilt, they're able to pump out every single slip. And the last numbers that I remember were somewhere around 120,000 gallons a year. And I'm sure those numbers have probably gone up. So
wow.
I think we can make a good case.
Probably 2 or 3 years ago, the boat basin actually supplied us with a map of where all their pump outs are, and it's about every 4th to 6th berth that they have a connection. And I still have it in an old folder somewhere. And it's really quite interesting to see, how they've extended their accessibility. Anybody else on this? Not seeing or hearing any water quality testing during the second year of No Fagawi. That's just a reminder from Mr. Brace, asking Natural Resources if there's any measurable difference without Fagawi here over this past weekend. Any discussion? We'll wait to hear some results in the future, hopefully. New business, May 25th, Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee meeting. Do we have an update?
Basically, we talked a lot about the midpoint report from Arcadis. Some of their, basically putting everything, all the information they had so far. I can definitely provide this board with a link so you can check out the report. It's fascinating. We also talked about various publication efforts and how something that really seemed to get gain some support during that discussion was ways of showing how high the water is going to get, and we're hoping to take a page from other communities around the world and here in the United States dealing with the same situation, and it has been talked about finding a way to project a line on buildings either by a laser or some sort of light that can be seen during the day so that you can get a sense of and then maybe a mark going up showing, at this year it's going to be this high, at this year it's going to be this high. Like, I think Dave and I may be the only ones that know this, but in the building that faces the water, on the water at the pier, at the Coast Guard station is a line on the ground floor that the Coasties put in there after the No Name storm?
Yep.
Showing how high the water was and that it's way up, a red line they put on the wall to give you a sense of how high the water. It's really quite, it just grabs you. And
Yes,
so,
it does. Yes. And
So-
that line, Peter, should be part of this display. When they had the meetings on this 2 summers ago, the open meetings to the public, I attended a bit, and they showed a rendition of what you just said, having a laser line, and they used the Thomas Macy warehouse building
Right.
as an example, which to me is a perfect example with all the foot traffic that you get there. But to have a
Yeah.
line of what we have already experienced over 20 years ago, 1991, 30 years ago, and then the projected lines of what it could be 2040, 2060, 2080. And I think that area down there, using that building, particularly the Thomas Macy warehouse, is you can really stand back and look at it. And when he's got the little gift shop and the ice cream place next to it, it really gives you an idea of, wow, this becomes inundated and unusable if it comes to that.
I know that.
Yes, Mr. Franzuto.
I know that his name escapes me right now. The bicycle Young. I know Harvey Young has those storms marked at the bicycle shop too. And again, that would be a perfect place because of the amount of people that pass through there, for people to see. And, if you don't believe that, then, the Dreamland, Wraith's new building and all those other buildings that have been built since then have all had to been up above the the 9-foot flood elevation level from FEMA. So, yeah, there are places around town that are very visible that would be a great example.
Mhm.
Um,
And
one of the-
eye openers. Yes, Mr. Brace.
One of the other locations that we talked a lot about having such a projection of various lines would be side of the Whaling Museum that faces the juice bar, with the
Oh,
idea
yeah.
that a lot of people are standing in line for a long time and they can look at that. It's a captive audience, and you would have a lot of people
Great.
getting a sense of that's all about. So now I think it's on the agenda for the next meeting. We're going to talk about how we can get this funded, if we can get this going on. Public education is a big thing that we talked a lot about, and I was told by our coastal resilience coordinator, Vince Murphy, that the money isn't there to do some of the things that were suggested, but the light on the side of the buildings is something that probably wouldn't be that expensive. I said we should create some sort of video short that can be shown before movies at the Dreamland, that could be shown on the town's website. And it was at that point that Vince said there isn't the money for that, but maybe it can be raised.
Well, Peter, come up with some type of a request and bring it before the NSA. The Shellfish Association might have some money to grant towards something like that.
Yeah, I'll bring that up for sure. And another thing I suggested, which I think is likely to happen, as I said, that for the State of the Harbor Forum that the Land Council does in whatever it is, it's in July or August. I said Vince should be given some time at that forum to speak about sea level rise. And Emily Molden was in attendance at the meeting, and she heard that, and she was excited about that idea. So maybe that is something that's going to happen, and they'll hopefully reach an audience that's not paying attention as much as our locals are. So
That's great.
Oh, good stuff. I mean, gosh, at Young's, you could just use soap on the glass. Maybe a building wouldn't mind, instead of projecting lights or laser beams or something, let's just get some chalk out and see if they're okay with, putting some temporary marks on the side of the building with chalk or latex paint that can be covered over at a later date or something like that. Let's maybe try to make some more conservative minded suggestions so that money doesn't become the reason that it's not displayed at all. I bet Harvey, when, who knows until you ask,
Right,
you need to ask these particular merchants if they're willing to participate. And if they're willing to have a temporary set of graduated marks on the building
Yeah.
with the years.
Yeah, most.
Or maybe,
most
Ginger?
maybe some bright blue string would be a relatively cheap, easily removable,
And if we want to
uninvasive.
educate, and we're waiting for somebody to come up with some money for it, and the education's needed, sooner than later, some of us just got to step up and try to, offer some time, which will bring me to something else about NSA, but I want to exhaust anything that has to do with coastal resiliency. I think that's all great stuff, Peter.
okay.
Mr. Falzutto?
Yeah, I'll talk to Borelli, who's the storm pathways guy. And I know he has a way of projecting those heights onto the building. And when I get back, I'd be more than willing to talk to these people about doing this with some kind of an unobtrusive way, a nice way to do it.
Even
so
make
it
it up
looks-
we could put
so
it
it
on a
looks
separate
nice.
board.
Right, so it looks nice and,
Yeah.
and there's several different ways you could do this, but anyway, I'd be more than willing to look into that.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, I'd feel strongly enough about this. I'd be willing to, and I don't agree with a lot of what Aramis or whatever they're called.
Arcadis.
Yeah, I don't agree with a lot of what they're saying. They're taking some information and regurgitating it or rehashing it, and they're not I don't feel they're capturing it correctly.
Okay.
But let me work on this. I'd actually be willing to fund something like this because you'd only have to do it in 4 or 5 notable locations downtown and to get the word out. And then it would become a thing that people would actually seek out, I think.
And through you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Franzito, I believe we're coming up soon, we're having our second open house online, inviting the public, and it'll be an update on everything that's gone on so far, and there'll be chances for people to comment. So when that happens, when that's going to happen, I'll let everyone know, and you could attend and
Okay.
bring up the concerns that you had at that meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome.
I'd just
Anybody
like
else?
to- Yeah, following up on this, it just occurred to me, there are these apps that were a rage. They probably still are. I don't know anything about them on their phone, but they were virtual reality where you could walk up and just spread via Facebook and Twitter or whatever. The knowledge of these places spread. And you walk up with your phone and you just point your phone at a building, and it just overlays virtual reality. It'll overlay the lines right on the building for you. So you could do this anywhere around number of locations around town. And I assume the app has a way to find these places, and you walk down, just point your phone at it, and it will draw the lines on the building for whatever you decide to draw the lines on that building. It's a virtual reality app that shows you the building through your camera, and then it overlays some kind of artistic creation on top of it. I don't want to say cartoon, but computer graphics on top of it. And so you could have this really all over town, as long as you know where the lines should be around town at certain times, and people can walk up and point it at a building, and it will show them those lines on the building on their phone.
That's a great idea.
Wow.
Yeah, there was a game out there called Pokemon or something. My kid played it years ago, and they would do. People traveled around and went to spots where they knew they should go, and they would hold their phone out. We'd see people run around with phones in front of their faces, bumping into things, but they were watching their phone because there was something else overlaid on top of the real world.
That's right. I remember that. Yeah.
That's outstanding. Yeah.
Might be an interesting way to approach it without having to mark up buildings or do anything.
That's a great idea.
All right. Any other thoughts, comments, discussion on the crack meeting? All right. The NSA met for the first time in quite some time. Actually, this is Nantucket Shellfish Association. They're meeting over the bank that's on Main Street, using a meeting room there. Is it not Cape Cod 5, but the other one?
Nantucket
No.
Pacific.
No. Where the Sandpiper restaurant used to be.
Oh, Hingham, is it?
Hingham Savings.
Hingham,
Yeah.
Blue something, Hingham something, whatever it is now.
Yeah. So the meeting room was there, but they also had remote. I wasn't able to get down to the meeting room, so I joined the meeting remotely. There's a Brooke Christian is no longer the executive director. But she's stayed on as a board member. I brought up the stickers for the dumpsters, and they all remembered them. They agreed that they voted to approve them. Brooke said she had sent us all a template of what she had come up with, and was actually waiting on our approval of that. And I said, consider it approved, please. So they're willing to, they're gonna invest $1,000 into stickers. And Mr. Franzuto mentioned a while back, because I was questioned by them, who's gonna go and apply all of these? And just like this app or putting up graduated marks for what tides could be, I think we can get some people together to apply these stickers in a timely fashion. So that is an old project that could be resurfacing and actually coming to fruition. So I'm hopeful that it does. I think as long as we have a building boom here, even not, there's, as long as there's properties being sold, and vehicles being used, there's hazardous waste being made here every day. So just thought I'd share that with you. If there's any comments, discussion, say so now. If not, any items you'd like to cover for our next meeting? Or is there public questions or comment? Not seeing or hearing any. Future meetings, June 15th, which the NSA also scheduled their next meeting for June 15th at 5:15. This is, I don't ever recall this happening before. Peter, I don't know if you keep track of this. Usually their meetings are on Mondays. I mean, I've been going to every one I can for the past 5 years. And it's never coincided with a SHAB meeting. So I've sent.
It's always Andy, it's always the fourth Monday of every month. It's always the
Yeah.
last Monday.
Yeah.
It's never this high up in the month. So is that the new executive director, the new person saying we're changing the meetings to that?
I'm not sure. I haven't gotten in touch with her yet. So I'm going to try to find out, because that was upsetting for me. I enjoy attending both and being able to collaborate back and forth. I think the NSA is very interesting and has a wonderful mission statement. So I'm hoping that gets corrected as soon as possible. So as far as you know, it's been the fourth Monday.
Yeah, that's how I remember it, because I was able to go to those meetings for the paper.
Right. Okay. All right.
I mean, I bet you could, if they keep their minutes, I bet you could just look back through their minutes and.
Oh, certainly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't make sense to me at all. I'm hoping it's a typo, but the notice is sent via email. Next meeting, June 15th, 5:15, and ours is June 15th at 5 o'clock. So
Dan Drake would remember it. Dan would tell you.
yeah. All right. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Moved.
Second, Mr. Chairman, this is Ginger.
All right, I'll take Mr. Brace motion to adjourn. Ginger second. All in favor, Mr. Franzuto,
Aye.
Mr. Sidlowski,
Aye.
Mr. Bossy.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. It's a unanimous decision to adjourn tonight's meeting. Thank you, everybody. Good to
Andy.
see you all. Have a
And-
wonderful, yes, Dave.
I looked